Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight I'm joined by Chris McElwain. I'm here to talk about Celtic versus Falkirk. It's the League Cup. I don't go for all that sponsorship nonsense. It's the League Cup, Chris. And we're playing Falkirk, and it's not in the season ticket, but we are going to be covering it here and now. We've got the teams. The teams have been announced, and we're going to run through them before we dig into your thoughts on the lineup. Now, a lot of people on today's show, and all week, Chris, we're talking about big changes, giving people opportunities, etc. However, this is the starting 11. There it goes, sponsored by Johnny Kenny. It's Sinisalo in goals with Alistair Johnston at right back, Kieran Tierney at left back, and it's Murray and Trusty in the middle. Murray having just signed a new deal. That was announced on the socials. I didn't bother reading the comments. McGregor, Engels and McKeown makes up the midfield trio with Forrest, Maida and Kenny up top. Kenny gets the start on the bench. We've got Schmeichel, Scales, Nygren, Ida, Yang, Shin, Bernardo, Hatate and Ralston. The seldom seen man, Paulo Bernardo. Straight off the bat, let's start off with the back five. Chris, what's your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting, as you say, with Dane Murray getting his deal today. But good opportunity to see him in some proper competitive football. I've only really seen him in pre-season, so keen to see that. Good to see Trusty again coming in. I think he's another one that had a good pre-season. There's been a lot of debate over whether he should be the man to take up that left-sided centre-back position ahead of Scales. So it's an opportunity, and I like that. Interesting, he's gone with the two first choice I would consider right back and left back with Tierney. I thought, if anyone, this would be a good opportunity to rest Tierney in particular, as we've seen how he's been managed in games up to now. So I thought there would be maybe an opportunity for Inamura, for example, to come in. Again, he's kind of conspicuous by his absence, even from the bench tonight, from what I can see. So is that saying that really we only have one recognised left back at the moment, or are we expecting Scales to come in maybe and offer that relief to Tierney later in the game? But I mean, what it is it's outside of Murray, who's maybe the least tried and tested player, it's quite a strong back line. Sinisalo I don't have any fears about, because he's shown he can be an equal deputy to Casper.
Well, you mentioned Inamura, and I think that even though he's not featuring this evening, I would like to start off discussing Inamura in actual fact, and that's due to the fact that the Champions League squad has been published. By the way, Celtic Park is fairly empty. As it happens, looking at the game, on the side of the park, we've got Charlie Mulgrew obviously doing the Premier Sports punditry, and the stadium is fairly empty. And again, this goes back to the conversations we had in relation to your season ticket, your value for money, and the fact that games like this, games like the Newcastle match, maybe even a Champions League qualifier, should be on a season ticket. What happens if it's not? Well, it's not like an organised boycott, but people are less inclined to put their hands in their pocket on a night like tonight. And there are a lot of empty seats. But Inamura is not in the Champions League squad, Chris. So going back to your point, we are running with one recognised left back, and we are running with Liam Scales as cover for that left back, and often starting the same game as that left back. That is not good squad management, if you ask me.
No, I would agree with you, and I think again it highlights, it firmly highlights the failures in recruitment today. I thought, listening to you and Jim this afternoon, I thought both of you were absolutely spot on. Jim was really on fire today, talking about this is really a failure to back the manager, and I thought that really is the message at the moment, because you can tell. Look, I mean, Brendan Rodgers speaks very well. He's very articulate. I think he's very strategic with what he says, but you can see the frustration. And you can also see the parallels between this season and prior seasons where we've had challenges because of poor recruitment. And it seems to be a rinse and repeat cycle at the moment. And Inamura, looked good in pre-season. We saw him. We thought, we were pleasantly surprised, because I think we didn't have any higher expectations for the player than the manager did in his first, the first time we spoke about him. It seemed very much to be a club signing, a project signing, all those kind of inverted commas terms. But he came in and he looked like he was up to speed. He looked like he was a decent fit for the team, showed a good attitude, and came away with quite a lot of plaudits. So it's puzzling why he's not even on the bench here. The talk is that he's going on loan. His absence from the Champions League squad, I think, tells its own story. But then you have to look at recruitment and say, well, why have we brought players like Moran ahead of players who need to come in and support this first team squad? You know, Kieran Tierney, ever since we announced the signing, people have been saying we need to manage the player, we need to manage his appearances, we need to manage his fitness, we need to make sure that he doesn't become a single point of failure for that position by virtue of getting, you know, maybe a bad injury, which can happen to any player. But to bring in Kieran Tierney, let a player like Greg Taylor go and not have what the manager considers to be a capable backup, I think is criminally negligent on a part of our recruitment process.
Call the cops. Yeah, absolutely. It's poor. I mean, even today, we were, Jim and I were meandering through some of the other stuff in Scottish football from clubs with far lesser budgets than us, Chris, far less season ticket sales than Celtic, far less money coming through when it comes to broadcasting, Champions League money, merchandise, etc., etc. And then you get the news coming through today that Dunfermline Athletic, Dunfermline, have just signed a winger. He's listed as an attacking midfielder. He can play in the wing. Jefferson Casares from Sheffield United. Now, the reason I'm saying that, he's reportedly costing the Pars 300 grand. That's what I'm hearing. £300,000, right? Now, that's nothing. It's nothing for a club like Celtic. It's a huge amount for a club like Dunfermline Athletic in the Championship, which means that they're actually showing a bit of intent and a bit of ambition. We've spent less on the guy who's meant to be the backup for Kieran Tierney, who can't even make it on the bench tonight, can't even make it into the Champions League squad. And it comes down to ambition, about showing a bit of vision, a bit of intent. And I think we're miles off it. Now, unfortunately, because I don't like seeing an empty Celtic Park, people might say, well, why aren't you there? We've got Charlie Mulgrew doing his punditry on the sidelines there, and the stadium, and let's just have a look, 8 minutes to go to kickoff. I can't remember it looking as empty as that in a long, long time, Chris. Don't know if you've got eyes on the stadium at the moment.
I can see it at the moment, yeah, and the stand that's the camera's facing at the moment looks really empty, actually, you know, and that's a poor endorsement of how people are feeling at the moment. I agreed with the comments that Jim made earlier about boycotting. I don't think it necessarily works, and because it's so difficult to organise. But I think, you know, we've always said on this channel, people need to support the club in their own manner. It's not up to us to tell people how they should and shouldn't support the club. But I think, again, if you've done your recruitment properly, you've had a good summer and you're excited about the season, you make a real effort to get to every game. I know there's geographical challenges. You know, the folks come over from Ireland and further afield in particular go to huge effort, a huge cost to get to the games. And I'll never, ever say a bad word about them. So I can understand why it can be difficult a Friday night game and certain fans not being there. But when you've got a 20,000, you know, strong waiting list for season tickets, that shows you the appetite that our support has, you know, and I'm among that, to get back to the club, to get a season ticket, to become a regular attendee at Celtic Park. And when you see games like this, which is a big game for us, right? Make no mistake, I know it's a League Cup, but it's a big game for us. In fact, there's a view of the stadium, actually. I've just seen it and it really does look empty. Then I think this is maybe a message from the fans to the way Celtic have done their business this season. And I think there's a real frustration amongst the support. I said it about 5 or 6 weeks ago. I wasn't worried at that time about the transfer window, but I said there will come a point of no return. There'll come a point where you take the fans' good faith and you go beyond that point of tolerance. And I think we've hit that point.
It's 20 minutes to kick off, my mistake. But yeah, it's still empty. But Chris, there's a lot of reasons. Friday night football doesn't suit a lot of our travelling fans. And we have a hell of a lot of travelling fans coming over from Ireland, and they'll be coming back over again on Wednesday next week. So that's a huge part of it. But I think the bigger issue is the fact that this isn't on the season ticket. I think when you're talking about value, and Celtic are obsessed with getting value when it comes to bringing in players, Chris, obsessed with it. Where's our value? I'm a season ticket holder. Where's our value, right? And Absolutely. See, when it comes to your season ticket and it comes to value, I do go back to the COVID season, because you bought nothing. You bought a nothing. You paid for your season ticket, you retained your seat, and you got a pass to paradise. You got a pass to paradise, and the actual product that you got wasn't that great. It wasn't that great.
Not compared to what you pay. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it was just the price of a season ticket to watch Celtic TV, and you got a £50 voucher for the Superstore. That isn't value. Neither is the season ticket when you're losing games, and it's being normalised. So I don't even think you need to say to people, boycott this or boycott that. People will make their own decisions, and it looks as though tonight it's maybe happened. So we have some concerns about the left-back position, but we're in a situation now, Chris, where the left-back, in terms of priorities, our priorities are on both wings and up top. So, I mean, the midfield for me, we've got plenty of cover in the midfield. We're fine. I mean, there's Bernardo, not kicked a ball this season. He can't even get into the midfield. We've got three positions with 6 midfielders. We're fine with the midfield. We're really bereft of any kind of wingers or options on the left or the right. And up top, we're weak. We're weak up top when it comes to a striker. Now, when you then think about the left-back situation, and you do, I mean, I'm not reading into Brendan Rodgers no wearing a tie, but I am going to read into Inamura not making a Champions League squad.
Yeah.
Because he is the only other left-back. Don't tell me Liam Scales a left-back, because he's not. He's absolutely not. And in the 2 games that Kieran Tierney's come off, and Scalesy has gone out there, Scales looks like a worse player at left-back than he does on the left side in defence. No doubt.
His strengths. Yeah, I'd agree.
It doesn't work out for him either. So, as well as 2 wingers and a centre forward, we're still needing that left back. It was a positional issue last season when we brought in 2 left backs. We brought in Sloop and Baye, both of them short term, and the short termism's actually caught up with us, unfortunately. But if we look at the midfield now, moving into that, in fact, let's talk a wee bit about Dane Murray first, because obviously he's a kid who signed a new contract today, very highly rated from Brendan Rodgers. He's one of 2 ex-Queen's Park players starting the game tonight, Kenny being the other one, and we've got another one on the bench with Tony Ralston. So it's a Queen's Park select that we've got out there tonight. And you look at Dane Murray, very highly rated, looked okay in some of the friendlies. He's had some horrendous injury issues. He's now at a stage of his Celtic career, Chris, where you need to bring him in, and he needs to step up and, to the point where we're no longer saying, but it's Dane Murray. He's been in and around the Celtic first team. This is his 5th season in and around the Celtic first team. He's lost a lot of football through the injuries. And I'm delighted to see him playing tonight. I just want to see him as a Celtic player rather than all the caveats of he's young and he's this and he's that. Just go out there and perform tonight.
Yeah, I think this is a conundrum, right? I mean, we're delighted to see a young player coming through, and despite the fact he's been in and around for a while, we know the disruption to his career, and it is great to see him back on that basis alone. But I think it's good to see the manager show faith in a player coming through, because we've not seen enough of that, and we've been crying out for it. Now, the counterpoint to that is, if you're in, you need to prove that you belong there. To coin the old Peter Grant phrase, getting into the team is one thing, it's staying in the team is a challenge. And Dane Murray really has to show that he's now ready to take this opportunity and step in. So there is a challenge on him. I think we have to show a degree of patience, because as his first, sort of competitive appearance for a while, but hopefully he does enough tonight to keep him in the manager's thoughts, and maybe he is going to be a kind of cup player this season. Maybe get a few runs, when we're trying to manage Carter Vickers' fitness, because obviously I think he is the second choice almost by virtue of not having anyone else to come in and play there just now. So it's a good opportunity for him. It's a good opportunity for us to see what he can do. I think he did look good in pre-season. I think he looked much more assured than what we'd seen maybe in previous appearances. So hopefully tonight he does take that chance, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays, within what is quite an established back line. So hopefully he'll have a bit of protection in there as well.
I'm looking at the stands there, the empty seats, and having on a much smaller scale put on a number of events over the years, that you've got to be fluid with how ticket sales work, Chris, right? So from the launch of the game, the announcement of the game, or the launch of the gig, you get an idea of how popular this event is going to be, right? And then you know from that what your promotional budget is going to have to be to try and get bums on seats. Now, some of these things sell out like that, in Champions League games and Rangers and games, etc. That's the equivalent of that type of event at Celtic Park. Some of these other games are harder to push, a wee bit like any event, harder to push. How do you promote that? And you make it so that, as many of those seats are full, regardless what you do to get bums on the seats. And I look at that and I just think the game was announced and that was it. The game was announced and that was it. It was almost like, we'll throw the doors at them, you will come to us and we'll fill the house out, and it's not happened. And, in terms of the Celtic Park atmosphere and everything else, we talk about the special dynamic that Celtic fans have and what we bring to the occasion, Chris. And that's going to be missing tonight. Now, I know it's Falkirk we're playing, but, they gave us a tough afternoon of it last season. They've got stronger. I'm not sure we have. So it's going to be interesting tonight because we don't have that dynamic of a full house. We were able to more or less sell out against Newcastle, but not so much against Falkirk, unfortunately. So we'll see how that plays. Its part. Trusty gets his first start, and I think, again, he's another guy that did really well in the pre-season, Chris, but he is definitely second choice when it comes to the strongest starting 11, according to Brendan Rodgers. It'll be good to see him tonight because he was looking really composed during the pre-season. And, just about anybody you speak to says that he's a good defender. When he's having to defend, he's great. When he's got the foot on the ball and he's looking for a pass, maybe not so much. So it'll be good to see him tonight as well.
Well, I mean, I know that's the general consensus, but when you look at the way Liam Scales played in the last game, I mean, defensively did absolutely fine, but his passing accuracy was atrocious, and we called it at the time during the match. So if he's supposedly better than Trusty, then I fear for Trusty's passing ability tonight. Look, I think Trusty is. I think he's more of a kind of old style, old fashioned defender. I think you get him to do the basics. I think he does them pretty well. At times last season, I thought he got his anticipation wasn't great, particularly kind of balls dropping over the top. I thought he sometimes struggled to position himself well, wasn't necessarily always aware of where the ball was in relation to the attacker. But I think he gradually got a bit more assured, he got more comfortable in his position. I thought he showed some of that in pre-season again, where I thought he started a little bit shaky. And then as he played more games in pre-season, he started to look quite assured and was one of the more consistent performers. So I was surprised to see that he wasn't the man to start. Particularly, you think that the international link up with Carter Vickers as well. You think there's almost a proven formula there, but for whatever reason, he's not found himself in. So again, interesting to see what he can do tonight. It'd be good to see him maybe build up a relationship with Dane Murray, because I think I always look at the centre back pairing. If you're playing a 2 or a 4, I always think build up 2 solid partnerships. So maybe if we've got Carter Vickers and Scales, is it going to be Murray and Trusty? Let's see how the guys do tonight. Maybe it does give Brendan that option to say, well, if I need to rotate it, I can bring in two trusted players. So yeah, again, good opportunity for him tonight. And I think this is not a dead rubber match tonight. I don't think we can in any way, shape or form disrespect Falkirk tonight. They'll be up for it. You always find that smaller clubs, with the greatest respect, the cup is that's largely the competition that they really play for. So I'm hoping we get a good competitive game tonight, but I hope we don't we don't slip in the proverbial banana skin tonight and end up out the cup.
No, 100%. I'm just going to bring up a few of these comments that are coming through. First one, we have spoken a lot about investing in Celtic Park to increase the capacity. I don't think tonight's the night that you use as your argument not to do it. Tar Booten Boy says if the board are going to use the 100 million to rebuild the main stand, is that acceptable? Is it acceptable to use that money? Is it acceptable to do it when we can't fill it out against Falkirk? That would all be based on the season ticket sales rather than one-off general sale games. And I think that there's no way any business, if they need a £100 million investment in a stadium, that they would just spend the money that they've got in the bank.
Yeah,
they would finance it in different ways. They wouldn't save it up. They wouldn't save that money up. It doesn't make sense to be putting all that money into bricks and mortar. It's something that all the money men who are very good money men at the football club would be able to work out. I'm pretty sure. Ian Roy. It should be 15 quid a ticket, first come, first served basis. Absolutely. If it's not in the season ticket, Ian, make it cheap. Get the bairns in. Get people that are underprivileged in. Get people in to watch the game. John McDonnell, a.k.a. Carol Jungle Boy, if Maida Forest or Kieran Tierney pick up an injury tonight, we are in big trouble ahead of potentially a season-defining Champions League qualifier. Well, Tierney starts. Maida starts. And, it is and Forest starts. It is a concern. And this is what we're talking about, and this is why we can't run with a wafer-thin squad. So moving into the midfield then, You've got Luke McCowan. Some thought that it was harsh that he never started the game against Aberdeen. But when you look at the performance of the midfield against Aberdeen, Brendan Rodgers made the right decision. McCowan gets game time tonight, and Engels gets his first start as well, Chris. Big season for Arnie Engels, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. He's come in with a bit to prove, I think, to the supporters. I mean, look, I'm very much in the camp. I think he contributed meaningfully enough last season. I think you also take into account it was his first season, new country, young player, time to adapt, new system, and and the pressure of playing for our club. So I think there's a lot of mitigating factors around some of his up and down performances last season. And he did take a wee bit of a drop off towards the end of the season, and I don't think he necessarily contributed as much as he did in the early part, particularly in the Champions League. But I think you always give a player with his circumstances, the second season that he came in and establish himself. Now he's now facing a bigger challenge than he did last year, because we've got Nygren who's come in and really hit the ground running, and seems to have solidified that central midfield spot that would have normally gone to Arne Engels. So Engels, for me, does have a bit to prove. But look, that's the measure of a good player, right? You rise to the challenge. You rise to the challenge, you say, okay, I've got a bit of competition for my place now, so here's my opportunity tonight. I'm going to show that, the manager's going to have a hard decision to make in the upcoming games. So what I'm looking for from Arne Engels tonight is the attitude as well as the performance. I want to see him busting a gut out there for the jersey, showing that he is a quality player. And not just by virtue of nice passing or his movement. I want to see him really put the effort in, and I think that's something that he doesn't necessarily always demonstrate the way people would like. Is they want to see the hard running, putting hard jabs in and using that aggression and that physicality, which we know he's got. So it's, for me, this is his breakout season. This will make or break his Celtic career, and he has got, as I said, that challenge with Nygren being in there. So yeah, time to pull your socks up, son, and get out there and show what you can do.
Well, this is our third appearance today. This is our third scheduled show. We started off obviously at 12:30 with the Acsom Bulletin, and that was followed by This is Acsom at 6 o'clock. And during that particular show, a great point was made by Paddy from Celtic World Order, who said that the best performances of Trusty, Ida and Engels were all in the Champions League. And it was a great point that he made. I've been talking about adapting to Scottish football. I think that Arne Engels has found it difficult to play against, the ultra-defensive block of many of the Scottish football sides that we face. Yet, when he was playing Champions League football, he seemed to flourish. He seemed to find himself in space. He was getting in amongst the assists, and he scored in the Champions League. And I just think when you look at it overall, I don't think it's as black and white as saying he either had a bad season or he had a good season. I think he was Celtic's Young Player of the Season. So he played over 50 games in a season that we won the double and progressed to a knockout in the Champions League. He played a massive part in that. And anyone who says he didn't, I think have already made their mind up about Arne Engels. It's not looking through green tinted spectacles either. I know that he's not aggressive enough for his physicality, which you pointed out. He's not aggressive enough. He needs to be far more aggressive. And aggressive doesn't mean you kick people off the park. You need to grab a game by the scruff of the neck and orchestrate it. Orchestrate the pace of the game. Make something happen. You need to do a lot more of that. Sometimes you watch a game that Arne Engels is in, and you're 75 minutes in, you can't remember a moment. You just can't remember a moment that he's been involved in. And when you look at his assists and his goals, he's obviously a very creative player. I'm not sure if he's playing in a position that benefits his tools, actually, at this stage. Maybe he's more of a number 6. I don't know. He's obviously going to be playing as one of the number 8s tonight, as is Luke McCowan, with Callum McGregor behind him as well. Let's have another wee look to see if it's filling up any. It's an advertisement break. So you don't get that on Acsom, and it's all free. So there we go. This is the third stream of today, and we will be back at halftime and full-time as well. And at full-time, we'll be drawing out a winner for this jersey.
Oh, exciting.
It sits behind me. We've been running that for a week. Here we go. Okay. It's Deeds. I voted like many with my feet, says Cooks. Cooks not going to the game this evening. And we've also got Jinky. Jinky coming in 67. Kenny does well tonight. He could earn a start on Wednesday. I'm not so sure, Jinky. I'm not so sure. Now, I don't have anything against Johnny Kenny or Stephen Welsh or Yang, right? But I think Celtic can do better, and in some cases a lot better than that standard of player if we want to progress, as we continually talk about on the European stage, Chris. So he's got a start tonight. Fair play. What do I like about Johnny Kenny? We spoke about the failings of Adam Ida against Aberdeen, his failing to drop deep, to draw out defenders, or maybe even get involved in the build-up play. Callum McGregor calling him out for it on the park. Johnny Kenny's brilliant at that. He comes deep. You watch him tonight. He'll come deep. He'll draw defenders out. He leaves the space behind, and in that space could be a winger, or it could be Johnston or Kieran Tierney. And he's done that very, very well. So I can see why. My issue with Johnny Kenny, Chris, is that when he gets on the end of the move, he doesn't have the killer instinct. He doesn't have that quality. Yep. And I know he scored a couple of goals for us, one competitive, one in a friendly. I get it, a couple in friendlies. But I'm not seeing the finishing prowess of peak Ida. Folk might laugh. You watch Ida's finishing. You watch his goals. You watch his 9 goals in his first spell at the football club as a loan player. You look at his 20 goals last season. You look at his finishing. Yeah. And it's night and day compared to Johnny Kenny. Johnny Kenny's got a lot of stuff Ida doesn't have. Maybe game intelligence, awareness, positionally, the work rate. Kenny's got all that in droves. He's got that in droves. Yeah. Adam Ida is a better finisher.
I'd agree with that. I think on confidence, and when he's at the top of his game, and we saw it last season, I think Ida is a more clinical finisher. I think he does big problems when he thinks about it too much. Then, he loses concentration, and he doubts himself. That's what my impression from watching him. I've nothing to validate that with, but that's just what I get from the eye test. Kenny, I think, has got a lot of the traits and the characteristics that we want in this system. He's a pest, and that's the best. I mean that, in a very positive manner. He's a pest. He puts himself about. He uses his physicality. He kind of barges into players, and he holds the ball up well, and he gets into positions, and he's always there, and he's sniffing about. But I think you're right. What we've not seen from Johnny Kenny yet, and again, some of this came down to maybe just lack of opportunities. So I'm not going to write this off yet. But yeah, he's not showing the finishing ability yet. Maybe a little bit similar to Engels, right? Engels, towards the end of the season, was snatching at chances, trying to put the ball in the net, desperate to get that goals from open play. Kenny, I think, is maybe suffering a little bit from that as well. He needs a goal or a couple of goals to really, show that he can be that finisher. But we haven't seen it yet, as you've said. And I think this is a big problem right now, right? We've got a first choice player who we know can score goals, but isn't. Just looks bereft of confidence and, doesn't look like he's comfortable in this system. We've got a player who looks as though he's actually more comfortable in the system, but isn't really able to put the ball in the back of the net and the opportunities he's had. And then we've got a complete unknown in Shin Yamada, who's, again, surprisingly on the bench. So we've no idea where he ranks in the hierarchy at the moment in terms of the squad. So we've that number 9, that key position, that goal scorer and the focal point of attack, we really don't know who the top player is at this point in time. There's no obvious candidate, and that's a worrying sign for me.
I actually think we do. I think it's Ida every single day of the week.
But is that by default though? Because
it's because of his ability. It's because of what he's done for the football club over a period of a season and a half. He's not scored this season, but I just don't think you can write a player. He scored 20 goals and 21 starts last season. Yamada's quite clearly number 3 at the moment, and Johnny Kenny's the backup. But I don't think that those 3 players are the quality that we require going into. The best striker we've got at football club's the guy the camera's on right now. It's Dyson Maeda. Maeda is the best striker we've got. By the way, the stadium seems to have filled up quite a bit since 20 minutes ago when we were getting quite concerned at the amount of
It could have been premature. Maybe we pulled the trigger too early on that one.
Well, it's looking a lot busier than it did 20 minutes ago. When I was watching the players in the tunnel, it brought back memories because I've been in that away dressing room, and by the time I got in the pitch, I'd already pulled a muscle. So it was bringing back some painful memories, and I got a wee twinge in my right calf there when I was watching it. But I don't think there's any doubt as to the hierarchy of the striking positions at Celtic right now. And it's definitely Ida followed by Kenny, followed by Yamada. Osmond is a development player. Osmond's made it into the Champions League squad. He's a development player. He was playing for Celtic B the other night against Clyde, right? So he's the 4th choice. We will and we should be bringing in another striker before the window closes. And if we do, then Kenny or Osmond or both should go out on loan. That's the way that I look at it. As long as you've got backup to Maida on the left-hand side, because Maida gives you another option through the middle.
Yes.
But, I mean, obviously, Ida doesn't start tonight, and you hope that Johnny Kenny makes an impression. And Ida is on the bench. He's on the bench, and he came off the bench to score twice against Falkirk last season. And we're just about to kick off. And the stadium is looking pretty full, so fair play to everybody who is at the game. Travelling far and wide. It's Friday night football. Tomorrow night, I'm in Alness, and on Sunday, I'm in Nairn. And then on Sunday night, I've got Manny in Glasgow. So I'm looking forward to this game. And then it's just going to be absolutely manic for a couple of days. And then Monday, I might just get the feet up, Chris. But put your feet up right now and enjoy the first 45 minutes. And once you've done that, come back at half time and join Chris and I on a Celtic State of Mind.